Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining my second session today. Who was attending my first session about Windows Defender ATP? A few, okay, thanks for coming back. My name is Heike Ritter. I'm a product manager in the Windows commercial team, and I actually own, from a marketing perspective, Windows Defender Antivirus and Windows Defender ATP Smart Screen. And the components that we are talking about today are actually, I have a peer, Chris Hallam, so you probably have heard of his name. He is the master of all those technologies, but he couldn't join, he had a conflict, so I'm taking over, bear with me. And I also usually need a little bit of time to warm up, and then also the light is a little bit disturbing, so if I don't see you raising your hand, please scream, because I really can't see many people here in the room because of the light. So the session today is on defending Windows clients from modern threats, and we will talk about all the cool stuff that we have in Windows 10 that help to protect any kind of breach or like those threats. So we all know that security is a CEO issue. So when they talk in the rooms, so it's really a big problem with all the latest breaches that you heard. We will go through a couple. And they also found out that, I mean, of course, it's very expensive. If you heard of, it's of course, money is involved. You have to contain the breach. Maybe your company loses the image. We heard about ATM attacks where they're like stolen just in a few hours, all kind of money from all kind of ATMs machines. So it's an expensive, it can be very expensive to be breached. So, and when you are in this room, I think most of the CEOs, they realize that it has shifted from some script kiddies that we used to have a long time ago to organized crime, and now it's nation-sponsored attacks that are happening. And the dangerous part here is they have money, and they really want to go after something, and they will invest, and they have time. So sometimes they sit there for a long time, they try to understand you. They, in the end, probably know way more about your network than you do to find a way to sneak in. So, and they have money to create or like to buy some 0 days. There's a nice quote that's coming up in a moment. So let's have a look at the, how a breach or an attack usually starts. So you have the entrance phase, which is usually kind of a so I'm starting to mix now German words. That's funny, never had this before. A browser, a document, you click on something that you get via Skype or whatever. We call this like usually a phishing attack. You get an email, you click on something. And then an exploit, a vulnerability gets exploited, and you try to, of course, kind of gain persistence on the machine, and then you expand, and so you move laterally, probably from one endpoint to the next, and that's kind of the end game. So it's phishing, an exploit, most of the time past the hash, and then the end game, someone gets the information that they want. So this is an example of an attack that happened, I think a year ago. A very legit email, it looks like. So what happened here was someone from the NATO was actually compromised before, and he sent an email, then the attacker, to one of his colleagues. And he put a link in there that looks very similar to the real address, regarding a topic that this person was very interested in and probably working on, and of course they click on it, so why not? So I get an email from my colleague, I click on everything that I can, almost. I hope that my defenses are up and running, right? So, and then what happened, it clicked on the link and it got redirected, but in just this second, the exploit gets exploited, and then like the exploit runs, and then it gets redirected to the real site. So nobody on the machine realizes it. It happens in seconds. It's like the wrong website, exploit, boom, real website. And in the meantime, while the person is reading some news, someone is getting their hands dirty on the box. So here just a couple of news that were happening last year. I mean, Yahoo, a huge breach. I think we put up on Azure, if you're using Azure, you could, what is it called when you compare your accounts and if they have been compromised with this Yahoo breach. Very powerful tool. And then, yeah, I mean, Yahoo also, the name got a little bit cracked with this one. And then I love this one. It's like a 0-day auction for the masses. They sell 0 days for like 95,000 US dollars. That's like nothing. For someone who really wants to breach your network and wants to get your data, it's how my colleague calls it like chunk chain for like a nation state that wants to go after something specific. So ransomware is the new threat. So when I was attending Black Hat conference last year in Vegas, everything was about ransomware. Every booth I approached, they showed like how the malware, like the ransomware developed over the time. And it was like 2 or 3, and then it was like 20, and it's like hundreds of different ransomware that is out there. It's difficult, I think, for software to, what is the difference between something that got invited to run on your box by your user by clicking on something and encrypting files, or BitLocker encrypting files? So we need to have a different approach. It can't be like, oh, block something that is encrypting something. We need to put more behavioral analysis behind it to understand what is normal on the box and what is abnormal on the box. So we will talk about this. So you will see all the defenses that we have up and running to also fight the ransomware war out there. So the Windows 10 defense stack is pretty massive. So we, in all kind of sections and pillars, we have device protection, threat resistance, identity protection, information protection, also post-breach. This was the talk I had earlier. I will briefly touch it later as well. So identity protection, I think it's something when you move to Windows 10, you should immediately implement its credential guard to immediately avoid any pass-the-hash attacks, because we separate the credentials from the operating system, put them in a secure store, and thus can't be used anymore. BitLocker to go. We have Windows information protection with Windows 10 as well to separate private data from corporate data. And it's not about encrypting data and making sure that it never leaves in the corporate network. It's more an unintentional leak. So someone finds nice information about the company, some great numbers about the revenue, and is like super excited and wants to put it on Twitter. But maybe didn't read the beginning. It hasn't been disclosed yet. We want to do a big announcement. So, and if you apply Windows information protection, the user won't be able to put this in Twitter, and you just avoid that this happens. And it's probably a nice user, and it should stay a nice user that has no guilt. So in this session, we will concentrate on device protection and threat resistance, so we'll go over those defenses. Important here is Windows 10. With Windows 10, we introduced Windows as a service. And my colleague Michael, and I just heard this on the floor half an hour ago, he used to say, if there's Office running on the client, you need to go on CBB. Long-term services branch is not the way to go. So you can make it that simple, but let's explain why this is. So our product release used to be like a product, 3 years, a product, 3 years, a product, and service packs in between. But what happened actually was we had a gap of protection. So once the operating system was out there, the security didn't get better, but the attackers. So, and then you probably filled this gap with a bunch of third-party security solutions, but what we found out, it really doesn't help. So look at the news, look at the breaches. So we need to be always a little bit ahead of the attacks and be able to change when we see something new is coming. So we see, for instance, you will hear it later as well, way more kernel-based attacks. So let's change something right now and put it in the next release in Windows so to avoid those kind of breaches that they get more and more. So this is why I think Windows as a service is a security feature. Yes, productivity and all this is great. We add more functionalities and capabilities, but see it from a security standpoint, I think it's very important to not go on long-term services branch when this machine is connected to the internet, and if a user signs in or whatever, this shouldn't be the case. So our threat resistance, usually, I mean, there's external defense so that the threat doesn't reach the box. But then if it still reaches the box, of course, we need all the defenses that are then on the box. Let's talk about it a little bit. So first is smart screen. Who knows what it is? Who's happy with it? Hello, I'm the product manager of this product. Can I have more hands, please? Thank you. Okay, so it's an unseen child here. It's protecting almost 97% of all the clicks on malicious websites just right away, and nobody realizes it. It's good. It's protecting users using Edge and Internet Explorer. So this is a good thing. If someone clicks on a link that is seen as malicious, and you know the optics that we have. I mean, we have a search engine, Bing, that's indexing tons of URLs every day, and we know what's good, what's bad, what's like happening around out there. So we update, of course, it feeds into this, we call it security intelligence graph all the time, and all the products take out what they need from the security intelligence graph to make the products right away better. So Smart Screen is one of it. The next one is Office 365 ATP, or Exchange Online ATP, which is a service in Office 365 E5, where all the emails that are coming in through Office 365 are being scanned on malicious attachments and also URLs. So the email will be blocked from a user if something is malicious, suspicious. And it's sending the stuff in a detonation chamber, analyzing what's happening, and if it does weird things, it will be blocked. Right away from all users that are in the organization, of course, where this email came in. So, and then let's go into the network. So I think everything starts with device integrity. So we need to ensure that Windows is actually the operating system that starts and that nothing tampers with the start process, boot process, all of this. So an attacker usually tries, of course, to hide. The best would be to hide under the system so that nothing that's running in the system can actually find it. So gaining persistence every time. Good would be something like in the firmware, like option ROMs. So with UEFI, who here in the room knows how old the BIOS is? BIOS? How old? Yeah, that was good. That's the first one. 30. So UEFI is a modern BIOS replacement that's adding additional security here and making sure that all the firmware is signed by a trusted authority and nothing else can actually start up. And then it also ensures that the next step is that a proper operating system is starting. So either it's Windows or it's Linux, whatever you choose to run. But this is a very, very important piece here. TPM, we currently use it for BitLocker, but you can also use it to verify that secure boot does what it's supposed to do. So let's imagine the certification authority gets compromised who knows then that this is still true, that the signed drivers components are the ones that you want to run. So this is why TPM can actually measure those and package them up, store them, and then in the next component, we will talk about this later, is device health attestation, where you send this package, it will be analyzed, and then only then you are sure that UEFI Secure Boot does what it's supposed to do. So the next step is platform integrity. This is now the next step, so Windows boots. You want to ensure that nothing else now, like all the drivers that are starting are actually real, signed drivers as well, so they need to be signed until the log-on screen. So we also offer an ELAM, whatever, how do you pronounce this in American English? Well, it was kind of okay. So an antivirus driver that can be loaded right here so that you make sure that your antivirus solution is the right one that's running. Yes, so, and if a file gets changed in this process, someone wants to tamper with a file and load it and put it in memory, after every reboot, trusted boot runs and make sure that the files are the original files. If not, it will take it out and replace it with one that's on the endpoint from a secure store on the endpoint. So until you log on screen, UEFI plus now secure boot and trusted boot make sure that everything is signed, everything is proper, and the right stuff that is running. So the next one is more, so this was all around Windows 8 already. So now with Windows 10, my colleague, Chris, he used to say, Windows 10 is all about, I don't want to say it's all about, but it's all about isolation, virtualization. So what we did is, you will see right in a moment why, because we separate the operating system and away from very sensitive data. So we will look at this. As I said earlier, so we are seeing an increase of kernel exploits over the years. So because we are protecting more and more the user and all the user applications are getting more secure and all of this, they're trying to find another way. So this is the same in the browser. If we close a gap here or like a hole here, they're trying to find something else. So I couldn't get, unfortunately, I was asking the team if I can get the latest number from 2016, but they didn't send them on time. So important here, because if you own the kernel, you can do whatever you want. So this is why we need to add more protection here. So our traditional platform stack looks like the following. So you have a kernel, it's running platform services on it, and then you have your apps. On a Windows phone or on an iOS phone, it looks a little bit different. Also, if you run universal apps, so they are in a sandbox. So you first have to find an exploit in the application, and then you also have to escape the sandbox and find an vulnerability in the sandbox to actually get to platform services. So, but on a traditional Windows PC, you probably have platform services, and then you have your 32-bit applications running on it. If you have a vulnerability here, you're right there on platform services. So this is why we took a different approach with Windows 10 with a modern device. So where we actually have hypervisor creating virtual machines where the operating system runs, and then separated another system, we call it system container, which contains things like credential guard, the information that we store for your biometric authentication, credential guard, I will talk about this in a moment. Those kind, and we will put more in there over the time, what we think makes sense to separate. So even if someone compromised the kernel on this side, it's bad, and they will have access to your data and all of this, but not access to your credentials and your certified or like TPM package, sealed package with like certificates applied. So very important to separate, and I think that's a good first step. So code integrity is here as well. So code integrity is a part of device guard. You can just turn it on, and what it does, it verifies that all the drivers that are running are signed, verified and signed by Microsoft, so that actually the code is like that. The driver is not doing any random stuff. So if you compile your software in Visual Studio, you can turn on all kind of security flags, and we make sure that they're all turned on. DEP, ASLR, control flow guard, and that all these things just help. For instance, if someone creates an application, starts, and it will be initialized, it spins up, layouts. No, it points out the layout in memory by saying, like, okay, here it starts, here it ends, and then they put the binaries in it, and then they set the flag to read only and not read and executable, so that all those kind of flags are set properly, and nothing is can be tampered with. So this is very important that all your drivers, because if they find a vulnerability in there in one of your drivers, it's not always a vulnerability in Windows that needs to be found, whatever driver runs in your memory. So, and then the future, we will see this in a second as well. So we have critical system processes and running over there. We have our Windows operating system in the middle, and we will separate the applications away as well. So if something happens in an application and an exploit and malware, whatever, you close it, it's gone. It's not affecting your operating system, your main operating system. So think of it kind of a sandbox solution that you have on phones, or yeah. So device health attestation is the next piece. As I mentioned, you can verify the status of a device by having a third party, your mobile device management solution, for instance, requesting this information and then verifying it. I have it at the end again, but I think it helps here to make sure that it's because it's threat and it helps the platform integrity. That's why it's on the slide as well. So attacks, exploits, vulnerabilities, of course, to get a foothold on the box. And as I mentioned, ASLR, DEP, and then control flow guard. I want to talk about control flow guard for a second. That's new. If you write a application and you have your functions in there, you usually point out this function calls this function, and this function calls this function. So if it gets exploited or tampered with, they find the place in memory, and then they can point the function to another function, but not the function that you want actually to run now. And with control flow guard, it will get kind of hardwired, so nobody can change the connection between your functions. That's very important, and that's another layer, like another security check in Visual Studio to hit. So, universal apps container. So we had this stack. We have, if you have Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, and you use universal apps or Edge, this is actually something that's already running in a sandbox. As I said, if you need an exploit, a vulnerability in Edge, and then you need another one in the sandbox to actually escape the sandbox and hit the operating system. Those are two. It's more challenging and more difficult to find those. But the main problem, I think, is still we have many Windows 32 applications. So this is the majority of the applications that we are still using in the network. But this you will see in the future, in a moment. So what we did with, I think it was Windows 10 as well, we introduced Secure Event Channel, ETW. So it's nice when we, it's all about application compatibility. Let's start here. So with Windows Vista, we had to break it. We had to change many APIs to make it just more secure. Many customers went from XP to 7, they skipped Vista, and they had tons of compatibility issues, of course. We worked hard with partners to make it smooth and help, but it was still a pain. So after 7, the compatibility hasn't, the compatibility to the next operating system stays the same. So if something works on 7, it works on 8. If it works on 8, it works on 10. The only challenge we have is with security solutions, because they usually go a little deeper, under the system, because they want to see more what's running in memory, what's happening here. So they're kind of a good boot kit, for instance. You can think of them like a good boot kit. But then we don't know what they do. So they develop kernel drivers, and then they do all kind of stuff in memory that we don't know. And then when we update the operating system, we might change something, and then they don't work anymore. So this is why we sat together with them. We invented this. It means we give them complete visibility to the events that are happening in memory, and then can just use them instead of really tampering around and doing some stuff in the memory. And this, if your security solution is using this new secure event channel model, then you won't have any issues by upgrading to the next version of Windows as well, like Windows as a Service, next update. It won't cause any issues. But they're moving there slowly. Some of them already there, others are still doing their own stuff. So let's talk about from within. So most of the browser is still the main target. This is a statistic about the vulnerabilities found in browsers. So Microsoft Edge is the most secure browser today, but we cannot be just happy saying hey, okay, the others have more vulnerabilities, let's be happy and continue. No, of course we have to invest again and again and again. But it's just because if something is being vulnerable, users will use it. I mean, they use Chrome, they will use Internet Explorer, and I think it's a good point to maybe move to something that is more secure. If you look at Edge, I don't know if it's the next slide, or maybe I don't have it. It comes later. So having a vulnerability it's what it is, and we will have a fix, and you can apply the fix. It's bad if it's a 0-day and it's not fixed, and it's out in the wild, and it can be exploited, and we don't know about it. So we haven't occurred this with Edge since we launched it. So we are very proud of this, but of course we are still working with it. So Microsoft Edge designed to be the most secure browser. Of course, objective is our customers need to be secure, make it difficult for attackers to get in there, and then our tactics is, of course, eliminate any kind of vulnerabilities, surface, break any kind of exploit techniques that are known, but also look forward and learn what they're working on and doing. We have a research team that is doing nothing else than trying to hack our stuff on their own and working with other researchers and engineers. So it's pretty amazing what they're doing. So what we did is already defending the user, identifying and block known trickery and fraud. We have Smart Screen, as I mentioned. We have Windows Hello that helps with credential stealing. And then all kind of security, web security standards, not allowing any kind of controls, or how do you call those, add-ons in the browser. So we are eliminating the surface of attacks. And the browser Edge is a universal Windows platform. I explained this before. Of course, address space, layout, randomization on 64, which is even ASLR2, leveraging 64-bit. And then, control flow guard. I explained this. So this is just nice to know. We had this Java thing. I don't really remember that anymore. So it was it was a target. It was had so many vulnerabilities all the time. It was something with Java. And at some point, we turned on kind of this flip. If you don't have the latest updated Java engine running on your system, we won't run the code. And from this point, they're like, so oops, it's not running anymore. When the customer didn't apply the update, but what are they doing then? They're trying to find something else, and now Flash became the new target. So if you block something here, you will just force them to find something else. So our team works very closely with the Adobe team and Flash to actually make Flash really secure and help running on our platform in a secure way. It's kind of interesting when I learned this. So there's a very old library. It's the Win32k sys. And it contains a lot of stuff that can't be changed because of application compatibility. But it's also old. And so Internet Explorer, or like Edge and Flash, they had like full access to this library. And even if they didn't need all of this. So we reduced this in adding a filter. So we only allow Edge as well as Flash to only use 40%, or like, 40%, 40% of this library anymore. So this is a huge thing because you cannot now go and find any vulnerabilities in this library and leverage them. So the same is true for Flash. As I said, like the team works very closely with them to find those things. This is the statistic I mentioned earlier. So look at Internet Explorer, how the numbers of days with known 0 days in the wild, how we call it, went down. So yes, we have vulnerabilities, but it's different if they get exploited in the wild or if we actually can react to them and ship an update and hotfix before they end up being in any kind of exploit kits. This is just a nice, so you will be able to download the slides later and you can look at the stats. So let's go to the next nice thing. Who attended or watched the keynote from Ignite? Where was it? Atlanta, Chicago, Atlanta? Anyone? Who have heard of Windows Defender Application Guard? Then you will hear about it now, that's great. There's my video coming now. It's actually Chris' video.
The internet has completely changed the way we work and do business. It's hard to imagine a world without it. Today, attacks frequently target the browser, any browser, as a way to breach organizations and access their data, so it's critical that we make it a safe place. With Windows Defender Application Guard, we want to make your experiences just that, safe and secure. We're excited to show you this in Microsoft Edge. Websites that are considered untrustworthy by your business or enterprise will automatically launch Microsoft Edge in an isolated session. These sessions are visually different to ensure users understand they're in a more secure browsing environment. Enterprise administrators have full control to decide which sites the organization trusts and which launch protected with Application Guard. Our patented hardware virtualization technology extends beyond the kernel level, protecting your network from malware, viruses, vulnerabilities, and even zero-day attacks. This lightweight virtual machine isolates malicious activity coming from the web, preventing it from reaching the underlying operating system, apps, and data. If the user encounters malicious content, it's contained within Application Guard. The user can close this session without impacting their PC or network. So as your employees browse the web, Application Guard and Microsoft Edge keep your business network safe and secure.
This is a really cool new feature that's coming. So Windows Defender Application Guard for Edge at the moment, it really, there's nothing that can come out of this browser. So it's completely isolated, and you saw like all the stuff happening in your box. But as soon as you close it, all is gone, and nothing can impact your system. So we need to work on some challenges. I mean, everything that you isolate, for instance, like this. How do you save something on disk without shooting a hole in your nice virtual environment. How do you save passwords and favorites without touching the operating system again? So there's some, we want to make it pretty and good so that it works for enterprise. And if you look at, maybe you have heard of the solution Bromium. So they have this similar solution for all kind of applications. Where a user sees automatically like an icon, okay, this is a Bromium session now, and I think you can take out something, but you cannot put in something, so I'm not sure how exactly it works, but it's a virtualized environment as well for your applications. So this is how it looks like. We had this slide before. So before it was just like an application here, now it's Edge. So we have still our Windows operating system. You have all the other applications running on your Windows platform services, here, Device Guard, Credential Guard over here. But now it's a dedicated Windows Defender Application Guard container, which contains a few components of the Windows operating system, of course. It's super interesting for us to get data out of it, like what kind of thing would run, maybe run, even if you close it and they never come out. So this is a very, very nice journey that we're doing here at the moment. So if you look at the demo, so you can see there is a link in an email. It's a Windows 7 client. You click on it, and then it will open the browser, and you won't even recognize but the firewall got turned off, your antivirus solution got deactivated, and all of this. So without knowing, because it's just the browser on the box. So if you go on a Windows 10 machine, it's kind of this same email. You click on it, and it's starting it in a virtual session. I don't know why we actually put our own website in there. It's like the Microsoft website is harming your computer. But I think it's challenging to put another one in there without like getting sued afterwards. So this is why let's put us in there and it's all good. So no, just that you know, you can still save browse to our website. We are not harming your system. So, but this is now, nothing happened on the box. Your firewall is turned on, Windows Defender is still, like antivirus is still protecting you. This is what Windows Defender Application Guard does. So, the current state is you trust an app until you know it's bad. Is this the right approach? No. Do you let anyone in your house until you realize, oh, I shouldn't have let him in the house? So yeah, a little bit more. So no, it should be the other way around. So this is why we have Windows Device Guard, next generation of app control. So application app locker, what we have or had before, you configure a policy, blacklisting, whitelisting, what you want. You can configure a file path, file hash, whatever, to allow or disallow on your client endpoint. The problem with AppLocker is it's a group policy that gets applied on the client. So if someone owns the client, they can change the policies and then, again, let run whatever they want. So Device Guard is a little bit different. Device Guard, you saw this before in my system container when we think of the virtualized environment. It will you create the list of white or black listing, and it will have to be signed by a trusted authority. And then this will be sent to the client and put in the secure system container. So if someone wants to tamper with that, there's no chance. So they have to go through the signing process. So they would have to use the same certificate, like the trusted authority that you use to sign in order to change the list, package it back, and send it to the client again. So that's why it's next-gen app control. So here's Device Guard in this container. So let's talk a little bit about my other baby, Windows Defender Antivirus. Who is using Windows Defender or SCAP on their network? Woo! So over the last years, it was always a great antivirus solution, but I think maybe you have seen some of our latest AV tests and AV comparisons. We are improving all the time. So we never took kind of those tests serious. We never participated really in that. We changed because our customers are actually looking at those test results, and we are always ending up like being in the middle or the last. So this is not nice because the solution is actually pretty cool. It's not just a traditional signature-based solution. We are having some behavioral detection in there. We are understanding what is good. So we are helping with ransomware in the next release of Windows a lot, and also in the anniversary update, we added a lot of new techniques in the client to actually help understanding, oh, something is encrypting, what this is not normal, for instance. The team invested, I think it was 2015, so we started to invest more in our machine learning in the back end. We had more researchers and more logic in the back end to constantly improve our test results and, of course, the real world as well as the prevalence-based testing. It's behavioral and cloud. Why cloud? We have, I hope everyone has cloud protection turned on, because if you think of a malware, it gets created, and then it goes out in the wild, and it tick, 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 click, 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 send, boom, boom, boom. So now someone writes a signature and sends the signature to the signature distribution center, I don't know what it's called, and then it takes a while for the enterprises to pick up the signature and deploy it on all the endpoints. Way too late. So sending something to the cloud and getting immediately response that this is bad, I mean, either we know it already or maybe not. Then we have something that is called block on first sight. So that means the client clicks on something, it's okay, it comes from the internet, it's marked as from the internet. We scan it, and we can then immediately block it, put it in our sample store if we want, of course, anonymize and stuff, to then prevent this from happening from other users and computers as well. So this is really a huge thing. Cloud protection should be turned on. It's tamper resistant because it's called trusted, a secure provider, security provider, and you cannot just turn it off by disabling the service or something like this. So it's tamper resistant. And of course, it's built into Windows, which also means it has a very low impact on the user performance, memory consumption, and all of this. So if you didn't raise your hand, next time we are in the same room and I ask the question again, test it out, try it. And please do me one favor. If you start comparing, I don't know, your current AV solution, for instance, let's say it's Symantec, it's McAfee, with Windows Defender, don't only compare it with Windows Defender, because that's a suite. All kind of stuff. We have all this kind of stuff in Windows 10. It comes with Windows. You already paid for it. So compare Apple to Apple and see if they have something here which you don't see in our AV console, because this is just focusing on antivirus. But we have all other defenses in the operating system right there for you to use. So this is our latest from yesterday. I'm super proud of the team. We 100% in our worldwide detection and prevalence-based was over the years completely constant all the time. The worldwide, we had a little bit of a hiccup, but we are getting constantly better, and we are staying there. We are like 99.7%, which is really, really great. And it's like these little everybody is around there. So you can absolutely trust in Windows Defender antivirus as an enterprise-grade antivirus solution. And SCAP, just that you know, SCAP is the management layer for Windows Defender antivirus. So if you have SCAP, and you have Windows 10, you will still see now on the client Windows 10, Windows Defender. We rebranded it so that it's not such a confusion. And you don't have to deploy another agent. It's really just the config now that goes down on the client to configure the settings that you would like to have. So let's quickly go over this one here, ransomware. Just all of this is coming. Many of this has been implemented already. So we have aggressive blocking behavior detection coming up. We have Office that enables calling AMSI for to check if this file is malicious or not. We have cloud machine learning models against new variants of ransomware coming up. So customers using Windows 10 can actually depend on Windows 10 to protect them from ransomware. And we are working closely with other Microsoft solutions to then also offer something like recovery in case the first few files got encrypted, and it takes a while to spot it, but then you want to get those back as well. So we talked about device protection, threat resistance, and I would like to spend a little bit of time on my other baby, which is post-breach. So in case those defenses something failed, post-breach is required to then understand what happened on the box, how did it get there, and what should you do next. So looking at the state of a PC health is the first thing. So today we just assume that the device is healthy, and you dial in your VPN connection, and it's like, sure, come in, all good. And you actually don't know. So this should be different with device health attestation enabled. So what happens here? So the user requests access to a resource, and the resource says, sure, but please prove that you are healthy. The client is like, I never did this before, what's wrong with you today? And it's like, request this information from its MDM solution, System Center, Microsoft Intune. So Microsoft Intune will now take this package, this sealed package, and verify that this is true and healthy, so that all the drivers got signed and nothing has been tampered with, and will approve the request. So, and then the client goes back and says, here's my proof, and then the user can access the resources. So this is available. I haven't played around with third-party MDM solutions, but I know it's available. But I know from Microsoft Intune there are some checkboxes. So that for VPN, for instance, you can say device health attestation required. This is also useful, like this is all conditional access, right? So you want to access something, and then you first have to prove that that you are the person, that you are a member of this group, and that you are healthy. Good. We talked about it. We saw it in a different way, but it's another nice, interesting statistic. So 100 people in your organization receive an email. What's your guess on how many people will open it? 20? Yeah, 23. I'm one of them, but probably 4 days later because I have so many emails in my inbox. And then 11 will click on the attachment. And the attachment can be like a little malware. Hopefully it will be blocked by your antivirus solution, but it could also be one of those sophisticated attacks. And everything, 6 of them will do it in the first hour. I'm not one of them. So for the people that have been in the room earlier, so I will talk a little, like in my other session, I will talk a little bit about Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. First of all, and I forgot this in the other session, so I hope everybody who was in the other session or watched the other session, I want to like mention it now, right at the beginning. It's a new sensor. It's not depending on Windows Defender antivirus, even though they work better together. But if you have any other third-party antivirus solution, any other third-party security solution on the box, they run side by side. So it's a new thing, a new sensor that is built into Windows 10 anniversary update. And it's not looking after malware. It's looking for advanced targeted attacks. So something that is not using malware, maybe it's using malware, but it's more legit tools, misconfiguration, something that nobody would block because it's totally fine in your environment that your users, or like you deploy software, something, and you use PowerShell. Why should you block PowerShell now? It would be crazy. So it's built into Windows and cloud-powered. That means you don't need any local on-prem infrastructure. You turn on the client, it's off. You turn on the client after you licensed it, and it will start sending all kind of events that we collect from the machine to a cloud backend. It's an Azure tenant. It's our Azure tenant, and every customer has an individual customer tenant in there. So we decided to go this way because then you don't have any Azure costs. It's all us. You paid for the service already, but you don't pay additional for Azure consumption. It's behavioral based, and this is important. It's not something, oh, we know something and then we can block it or we can warn you. So we look at the events, we correlate it. We have a huge security machine learning engine in the back end, and it's correlating the information and seeing unusual pattern or of course, also stuff that we know. So if we know of an activity group that is using this file with this file hash and it's on your machine, yes, we know this as well. We are not looking at a behavior in this case. We have both. We have IOAs and IOCs, indicators of attacks and indicators of compromise. So, and we provide you a rich portal where you can do your investigation. So this is really about advanced targeted attacks. It's a security operator's dashboard and portal where they can do all the investigation and response that they need to do when they have a breach on the network or something suspicious happening on the box. We will surface some other security events from the box, but it's not nothing for configuration, or we will not be like your reporting tool to understand that you have all your latest Windows updates deployed. I don't know where we are heading to, but right now it's really for your incident response team to understand that something is not okay. We have, I already mentioned it a little bit, our security intelligence graph. Over 1 billion of Windows devices getting updated every month. We learn from that. We have over 1 billion log-on information on Azure AD. Everything feeds into this security intelligence graph. Bing. We have Outlook and Hotmail, where we index email attachments. So we learn stuff. We put this in this graph. And all our applications can feed the information, can get the information out there that they need to know if this is good or bad. So this is all anonymized, but we still understand that this is a good IP address or a bad IP address, if it's a botnet, if this file has been seen in an attack or not. So this is, I think, Microsoft in a very unique position here with all the threat intel that we have. We partner. We announced a partnership with FireEye Eyesight Threat Intelligence, where we also feed in their TI in our system, so customers that are paying for this service don't have to pay additional money for the FireEye Eyesight Threat Intelligence. Sorry, I need to say the entire long name. But FireEye doesn't get telemetry from us. What they get is an upsell opportunity in case you want to learn more about an activity group they discovered, then you need to purchase the premium service here. And you can feed in your own threat intel if you wish as well. So let's switch to a quick demo. Again, who was in my session before? It's not enough. You need to go through this again. I'm sorry. So this is Liz Bean. You know Liz Bean already. She's our victim. She receives an email. She clicks on the attachment. We learned this 6% out of the day. She enables a macro. There's a yellow thing. She thinks, I do the same because I think maybe something pops up and I need to enter information. What it does, it's an exploit. A file gets dropped. PowerShell gets started. Starts a command and control connection. And now the hacker's on the box and does his stuff. He uploads some files that he needs. He tries to find out, hey, am I on a real network? Am I in a sandbox environment? Who am I? What am I? And then he gains persistence by adding something to the ASAP registry to, next time the machine reboots, it is back again and connected back to the command and control server to do other stuff. So we learned this is Liz Bean and this is the bad guy. We are hunting the bad guy. So on our portal, just takes a minute. We can see, there is a red alert. The red alert means not good. Red alert is usually a very high severity. We identified an activity group on your network. So we have several alerts like yellow, yellowish, yellow and red, something that is suspicious, and then one that is red in this case, which means we can attribute to an activity group. In this process, until we could attribute to an activity group, there were several steps. Reverse shell, blah, blah. All of those hit some alerts. So the product is actually very quiet. We correlate. We take our time in the back end. So we are not like shooting immediately. So if you try it out and you try an attack, be patient because we don't want to throw too much noise on the portal because we want to give you the things that you really have to care about. So we see that a NeuroBlaze attack has been detected. I click on it. I want to learn more about it. I'm skipping the part of all the threat intel that you get. You can try it out. I'll show you later the trial. So what we can see is, okay, those 4 files have been identified with this attack. I want to learn more about this sysdebugger just because I'm curious. I click on it. You could see this little graph, right? So it shows you where did it start, and all the other machines where the file has been seen based on file hash. So I can see there is I get now redirected or go to the detonation service where I can submit a file for deep analysis, and we will give you this awesome report back what the file did on our virtual sandbox environment so that you get a full understanding of, this file is bad. It creates connections, and it can communicate, and blah, blah. And there was, I think, in the last thing was contacted IP addresses, and one of them, as far as I understood from that attack, was a bad one from this activity group, and that actually was the evidence that it is one of the NeuroBlaze attack that's on your machine. So what's interesting here is also think about our optics. We have seen this file 5 times worldwide, not a lot. And if I scroll down, I have seen this file 5 times in your organization. It's your file. They're targeting you. So I want to learn more of what happened on Liz Bean's machine. So I click on it. I don't know, sorry, my phone tells me all the time I'm flying from Munich to somewhere else and I should go to the airport. I'm not flying. It's not in Munich at least. It keeps not annoying me. So this is Liz Bean's machine. And I can see how many users have been logged on to this machine. I can see all the alerts that we correlated on this machine on a timeline. So this was the first alert, next, since this is activity group. I'm curious to see what happened at the first stage. So I click on it, I go down in the time, and you can see all the events that we collected. So this is not a secret. People ask us, what are you collecting? Here it is. Everything that you see in the dashboard, in the portal, is what we collect. And then you can see the entire process tree of what happened. So if I click on Outlook saved an attachment to disk, you can see every single process that created another process who did what. And if you have an Office 365 ATP and you connect those services together, once this is launched, the connection it's not too long away, we will already pull out the information from Office ATP because of the integration and show you more details. And I could click now on more information, more details in Office 365. I will just one more time click on it, and then I get redirected to, here it is, Office 365 ATP, right to this email. I can see who else was a target of this attack. And because we exchange signals, we feed in the security graph, we take out of the security graph, Office 365 ATP now knows this is bad and will block it from any other users in the inbox. So this is really, really great collaboration and leveraging the intelligence that we have at Microsoft. So the next step here, of course, would be, what should I do? I can't click on it, but trust me, this is just because of the demo environment. You can now isolate the machine. You can collect another forensic package. You can click on the file, and you could say block the file or kill process and quarantine the file. So when we use these response capabilities, we are using our own components. So isolating the machine means even if you run a third-party firewall, we will override the rules that's a German word again, by starting up the Windows host firewall, creating our rules to just have a connection back to the Windows Defender ATP portal and block everything else. And then if you unisolate the machine, again, it will be back dormant, sleeping, turned off, whatever, and your firewall is running again. So if we block a file or kill a process, we will wake up the dormant Windows Defender AV, if it's like in the networks that are not running Windows Defender AV, kill it, and then he goes back to sleep. For blocking a file on the entire network, you need to run Windows Defender AV as your primary AV solution with cloud protection turned on, because banning it from the entire network means we create a signature for your organization for this file and distribute it to your clients, and this is, you need Windows Defender AV. So we don't have any integration yet with other AV solutions that would, I don't know if that's something that's coming, but this is how it works today. Good. What do you need for this? E5 license. So everything that you saw before, all the pre-breach, everything is in E3, Windows 10 Enterprise E3. Windows 10 E5 is Windows 10 E3 plus Windows Defender ATP. So you can either get an add-on or you can buy new E5, whatever you have. And then you onboard. Super easy. You sign up for the service. You get access to this portal, to your portal. You can download this package here, local script, config man, group policy, whatever you want. You download it, and then what it is, it's a GUID. The client needs to know, where's mommy, where's my tenant, where do I need to send the data to, so that, because every customer has its own tenant, and then it enables the client, and the client will start sending. Done. Super easy, no deployment required. So, some nice quotes. We are always very proud of our quotes and when customers actually are happy with our product and then are also telling other customers that they're happy about it. So we have Forbes and CNN Money that are happy customers using our technologies and are feeling safe with Windows 10. So everybody who is not yet running on Windows 10 or maybe running and still deploying and working on what should I do next, I think Credential Guard, Device Guard is becoming better or easier, not better, easier to deploy. So with the anniversary update already, we implemented connection with System Center. So all the applications that you are deploying with System Center config man are automatically on a safe list. We will add more in the future, having a list with a known application with good good applications that we know that you can trust, and then you can block everything else. So you block everything, you allow your list from System Center plus the list Microsoft applications, and that's it. So with that, I think we covered device integrity, platform integrity, application control, everything related kind of to threat resistance. There's way more security in there in Windows 10 that are helping you to protect your PC and your user from encountering any bad threats. And with that, I'm done. And first of all, thanks for attending, for listening, for staying. And the mic, there's no mic, so, but please feel free to ask questions. Thank you.